What is up? Good mic work. Back at you with episode 421. That's a wrap on WrestleMania 33 weekend, and what a weekend it was. A true emotional roller coaster for all of us wrestling fans. So I'm up here this week just to recap the whole weekend, maybe a few follow-up thoughts on WrestleMania and the Undertaker's retirement, maybe a few words on the Hall of Fame and stuff like that. And I'm also going to give you a full review of the post-WrestleMania Monday Night Raw and Smackdown Live. Before we get started here, I just want to mention a few things and give you a quick programming note. First of all, please like this video and subscribe to my channel if you have not yet already. Go to my website, goodmicworkcommentaries.com, and please follow me on Twitter at goodmicwork and like my Facebook page. If you would like to listen to this commentary in podcast form, you can find the downloadable version on my website, or you can listen to me on iTunes and Stitcher Radio. Now, as far as my weekly commentaries go, this will be the last one for a little while. I'm about to leave this Saturday morning for Hawaii. I'm going to be going on vacation with my family for an entire week. So next week's review will have to be skipped because I will be completely unavailable to do any commentaries, and I'm really worried that I'm going to miss this week's Monday Night Raw. If I'm around, if I'm in my hotel room on Monday night, I'm definitely going to watch it while I'm in Hawaii because we've got a big shakeup coming to the WWE roster and some potential roster moves and some of the talent interchanging. So I'm really bummed out that I'm not going to be able to see that most likely live, but I'll catch it online or whatever, and I'll make sure I keep myself up to date. In the meantime, please, like I said earlier, follow me on Twitter. I will be talking throughout the whole week on Twitter, so if you want my opinion on something, or if a big wrestling news story breaks, or somebody passes away, or anything major happens in the next week, just check my Twitter page and I will be sure to give you some comments about it. And as far as Monday Night Raw goes, because I don't know what I'm going to be doing while I'm in Hawaii during Raw, please tweet me all the updates. Let me know what's going on the show. Let me know which talent is switching brands and all of that. Just basically update me on everything if you don't mind. That's my homework assignment to all of you. I would really appreciate all the wrestling updates possible because every time I go to Hawaii, sometimes, I can be aware of what's going on and sometimes I can't. The service is a little up and down out there as well. So it's just different. I don't know what I'm going to be able to keep up with as far as wrestling goes. So I'm going to rely on Twitter, and that's going to be up to all of you guys. So if you can hook me up with some updates, I would very much appreciate it. So I'm guessing here, looking at the calendar, it is looking like it will probably be 2 weeks until you hear from me again. Hopefully I can get a couple of my old DVD reviews re-uploaded that recently got taken down. I gave you 3 of them a couple of weeks ago. Maybe I can scramble and throw a couple of those together and release those to you a couple at a time while I'm gone. No promises on that, but maybe I can make that work, so at least you will get something coming to the channel. Otherwise, this will be the last commentary for about 2 weeks until I come back and watch the next set of Raw and Smackdown tapings and then give you a big commentary recapping everything that I missed. So most likely 2 weeks from today will be the next time you hear from me, and that will be episode 422. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I really enjoyed this year's WrestleMania. This is one of the better WrestleManias that I can remember in the past few years, and one of the better WrestleMania weekends I can remember in the past few years as well. Even the Hall of Fame and NXT were great shows. Looking back at the Hall of Fame, I loved every bit of it. I watched nearly the entire thing. Some of the best speeches we've ever seen took place at this year's Hall of Fame. I loved what Diamond Dallas Page had to say. I love Eric Bischoff's induction of him. I thought Jim Cornette had a iconic and legendary induction of the Rock and Roll Express. I didn't expect to enjoy Beth Phoenix's speech as much as I did, but I loved everything she said. She thanked a lot of people, and it was really a heart-warming and touching story that she told about Molly Holly, how she paid her tuition and all of that, and then bringing out Tony Chimmel to announce her husband Edge in the crowd with her daughter was also pretty cool as well. So even though Beth Phoenix is one of those inductees that it's like, does she really deserve it? Who cares? She's a great person, and I think she deserves the honor, and her speech made up for all the criticism, I guess, because I thoroughly enjoyed it. And then, of course, Kurt Angle, I believe, had one of the best Hall of Fame speeches we've ever seen. I mean, it was so entertaining. He was funny. He was serious. Singing his fucking HBK parody song and drinking the milk at the end. And he's just great. It's just so amazing to see Kurt Angle back under a WWE umbrella, to hear that music again. And the fans, I mean, Jesus, did they miss him? We all missed him. Unbelievable that he's been gone for almost 11 years and he came back, and the fans welcomed him back with open arms, if not more so. Kurt Angle is getting a pretty awesome reaction from the crowd so far since his return. The guys and gals of NXT, of course, kicked some serious ass on Saturday night. Great show, as all the NXT takeovers are. And it makes me proud to be a wrestling fan when I watch those shows. So the whole weekend itself leading up to WrestleMania was pretty fabulous. And I know there was a lot of stuff going on in Orlando, all the wrestling conventions and the wrestling shows and the Internet Darlings thing and all sorts of stuff going on. And I would have really loved to be there. And it looks like everybody had a great time. Many of my listeners were at WrestleMania. You guys have been tweeting me and sending me pictures and different things all weekend long. It was a lot of fun. And my only regret is because of my fucking vacation that I got to take here this week, I was not able to be home for as much of WrestleMania weekend as I wanted to. I wasn't home Friday night to watch the Hall of Fame. I wasn't home Saturday night to watch NXT. I took the entire day off Sunday and was basically in front of my computer from sun up to sundown watching the show. But then even on Monday, I had to work and miss the post-WrestleMania Monday Night Raw. So I was not a happy camper as far as that goes, but that's going to be the last year this happens to me. I'm going to make sure that I don't plan any other vacations anywhere around WrestleMania from now on so I can enjoy the entire weekend, and I'm going to make sure to enjoy that shit next year. That's for sure. But all in all, I can't say enough good things about the weekend. I thought WWE did a great job. I think the fans had a great time, and WrestleMania itself was one of the best WrestleManias we've seen in a long time. Just so many amazing things took place on the show. I mean, it had an overwhelmingly positive response from the audience, and that's pretty awesome considering that Roman Reigns won in the main event of WrestleMania and main evented his third straight WrestleMania, and the fans still look at this WrestleMania as one of the best we've ever seen. The whole presentation of it I thought was great, especially the set. Everybody that went to that show, even the other YouTubers that are starting to post all the WrestleMania videos, they're all saying the same thing about that set, and it's one of the best that we've ever seen at WrestleMania, and that's saying something because we've seen some awesome WrestleMania sets throughout the years, and I think this one in Orlando so far might top them all. Of course, with all the amazing moments that took place on WrestleMania and so many matches exceeding their expectations, and we had a great balance of action and surprises, and just the whole show was just so well done, especially at first when, during the pre-show, I wasn't sure. I was a little nervous. I'm like, oh God, some of the timing issues seem off here. I'm not sure why they're moving one match to the main card and one match to the pre-show and what the hell's going on in their head, but it all evened out in the end, and it turned out to be a well-rounded, well-balanced show. I mean, it's 5 hours long plus a 2-hour pre-show, and the crowd still stayed jacked for nearly the entire thing. And of course, what we're all going to take away from this WrestleMania was the end of the career of The Undertaker. And I'll tell you, I'm still, I'm just still a little emotional about it. Here it is, 72 hours, 3-4 days after that match, and I am still just as, shaken by it as I was the night that it happened. I mean, I think this was even more emotional than the first time The Undertaker lost at WrestleMania, because this truly felt like it. And I went back and watched it one more time, which was probably a mistake. Seems like every time I watch The Undertaker's match, all this dust just appears in my room and starts getting in my eyes, and my eyes start watering. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what this salty discharge coming out of my eyes is. I have no idea. It's very weird, but it seems to happen whenever I watch The Undertaker's final match. But looking back at the end, watching The Undertaker in there after his loss, and the way he sits up, and the crowd just showing him all the love. And I mentioned in my WrestleMania reaction video, link is up in the top right there if you have not seen it, I recorded that just an hour or two after the show went off the air. And I mentioned that I was handling everything just fine. I wasn't getting too emotional. When I was watching all this, I had a smile on my face, just looking at The Undertaker, realizing that this is it for him. And I was just happy for him. I was proud of him. I was glad this was finally it. And I was just, in my head, I was starting to think about all of my memories of The Undertaker, all of the things that I've watched him do ever since he debuted in 1990. And it was, how you hear those stories of if you have a near-death experience, your life flashes before your eyes. The entire career of The Undertaker flashed before my eyes during those final moments there. But I think when I really lost it is when he took off the robe and the hat. And when you go back and watch, I think it's when he took his hat off. I think he took off the gloves first and his jacket. Go back and pull it up on the network and you'll see what I'm talking about. I think for me, my tipping point was when he finally took the hat off and you can see the emotion in his eyes, probably for the first time since, maybe he was the American Badass and he was a little more human. You could really see the emotion behind The Undertaker's eyes for the first time. And when he took the hat off, he took that deep breath. Go back and watch it. You'll see what I'm talking about. And as soon as he took that hat off for the last time, he kind of let off this big, sigh. And you could just see it was really hard for him to do that. And that's at the exact point where my emotions got the best of me. To see The Undertaker, in that way, looking like a true human being. And you could tell at this moment, touched him, and that he was, it's weird. It's like you're half sad, you're half happy. Part of you wants to celebrate the career of The Undertaker, but the other part of you is in mourning over him leaving. And he told the story on his face with a look in his eyes, and when he took that deep breath and placed the hat down on the jacket and the gloves, that was it. And that was rough to watch. I mean, it's going to be tough to watch that for the rest of my life if I ever go back and look at that. Definitely one of the most emotional moments in WWE. And I had mentioned in my WrestleMania reaction video that I had a suspicion, and I was hoping that my suspicion was untrue, but I had a suspicion that that was going to be it as far as the send-off. Really, what else do you want? When you think about the type of character that The Undertaker is, he's very different than everybody else. He's never really broken kayfabe ever. He never even is seen at the Hall of Fame ceremonies or anything like that. That's going to be the weird thing, to see him inducted into the Hall of Fame and how he's going to be. Is he going to be in character? Is he going to be Mark Calloway? What's he going to do? We never even see him sitting in the crowd or doing anything that a normal WWE roster member would do. We never see him in those environments. So what I'm wondering is next year, what we're going to see from him if he in fact does go into the Hall of Fame. But my point was that because of that ominous nature of The Undertaker, I wasn't sure if we were going to get the big love fest on Monday Night Raw. I had a strong suspicion that that was going to be it. And if that was it, you're not going to get any complaints from me. Yes, I would love for him to have one more big send-off on Monday Night Raw. That might still happen. They might hold this off for a whole nother year. If they induct The Undertaker into the Hall of Fame next year, maybe they do the big send-off on Raw a year from now. But I really didn't care that they didn't do the send-off on Raw, because to me, the send-off was at WrestleMania. That's exactly the way The Undertaker, I feel, would want to go out, because he is so different and he truly is the most unique WWE star that this business or the WWE has ever made or seen. To me, he needs to do it his way. I'll never forget one of his Slammy Awards. I mentioned this recently too, when he won a bunch of Slammys, I think in 1997, before he beat Sid for the title. And he said in one of his speeches, he goes, "I did it my way." And to me, a lot of us were scratching our heads. Why is the WWE not capitalizing on promoting this match as The Undertaker's last match, making it a big Ric Flair-like love fest where he, maybe has his last match, maybe even goes into the Hall of Fame, does the big send-off on Raw, and the whole entire weekend is just encompassed by this love for The Undertaker. As great as that would have been, to me, The Undertaker went out exactly the way I imagined him going out. No reason to promote this shit for 4 months. This is The Undertaker's last match. Everybody join in and watch it. The Undertaker wanted to treat this as, yes, he could still win and he could wrestle next year, or it might be his last match. I think he wanted to tell the fans at the end, in his own way, that it was his last match. Now, the WWE really did that anyway by having Brock Lesnar and Goldberg not main event. Once the second WWE title match had started, you knew with The Undertaker being in the main event, there's no reason for him to be in the main event when you have two titles being defended on the show. The only way he would be in the main event is if he is going to wrestle for the last time. So we all knew it. There was no reason for the WWE to advertise it because the fans knew. We've all been talking about it online for the past, 3, 4, 5 months now. So it's not like it was a big surprise or anything like that, but I like that this was different. I like the fact that the WWE didn't over-promote this as The Undertaker's last match. They gave him the main event. He didn't want to be the center of the show or the center of attention, even though he still was. It wasn't his intent. And he just wanted to go out there and have one good, last, hard-fought WrestleMania match, put over the WWE's top guy, and walk out the door. And that's exactly what he did. There was really no reason for him to show up on Raw and for them to do a big send-off on Raw. To me, The Undertaker's send-off was WrestleMania, leaving his hat, his gloves, his jacket in the ring, and walking away, saluting the crowd as they cry for him, as they cheer for him, and then he gets lowered down the ramp, which I like that touch. That was an 85-yard ramp, and I was wondering to myself, how the hell is The Undertaker going to walk down that? But they had him come up like halfway through the bottom, and he went down the same way and left the WWE audience for the final time. And to me, if that's my final memory of The Undertaker, I'm perfectly fine with that. I don't need a send-off on Monday Night Raw. So, looking back on WrestleMania and what it gave us, that moment, is not going to be something I'm going to forget for a long time. Probably as long as I live, I will look back on this WrestleMania as one that I think touched my heart the most because of what The Undertaker meant. I had a belly full of turkey, and my parents ordered the Survivor Series 1990 on pay-per-view for me because I got an A on a math test. And I remember being so excited about the big egg hatching and the match of survival, which is something else they have never done. There were so many other things about that year's Survivor Series that I was looking forward to. The last thing in the world I thought would happen is that would mark the night that arguably the greatest WWE star in history made his debut. So, all this week, all I've been doing is thinking about The Undertaker. If I didn't have to go to Hawaii in a couple of days, I might have even uploaded a big video, recapping the career of The Undertaker and talking about all of his greatest moments. Maybe that's something I can still do in the next few weeks, but I've got other projects going on. I've got to give you guys that WrestleMania memories commentary that I've been promising forever, and we'll have WrestleMania 32 and 33 added to that, so that'll be coming soon. Even though I keep putting it off, it will be coming. So maybe I can get up something more on The Undertaker. As a matter of fact, last year, back in 2015, whenever the hell it was, I did a Survivor Series 1990 review. That link is up in the top right-hand corner as well. I believe Undertaker was number 5 on my top 10 favorite wrestlers of all time. I would like to move him to number 2 now. Number 1 I can never change. And speaking of my number 1, did anybody see Bret Hart's post? I mean, everybody made social media comments about The Undertaker. All the stars, all the wrestlers, whether they work for WWE or not, were all saying great things about The Undertaker on social media. But I especially liked Bret Hart's post. It was short and sweet and to the point, a couple of paragraphs long, and he posted the poster from SummerSlam 1997 when him and Undertaker main evented that show 20 years ago, and talked about what a great friend Undertaker was to him and how he always had his back. And they have a really deep respect and a good relationship with each other, and that really touched my heart to see Bret Hart say that about Taker. So it's been an emotional week, man. I'm telling you. Some of you are young. I mean, some of you are 20 years old. Some of you, Undertaker was wrestling in the WWE 7 to 10 years before some of you listening to this were even born. And even you guys, I'm sure, appreciate The Undertaker as much as all of us do. So imagine what it's like for some of us older fans that literally watched him since we were kids, and now we're in our 40s. I mean, that's a long time. And for The Undertaker to be there for 27 years, some of the stories go that when he first came in, he signed a 6-month deal. I think he was just brought in to be a big heel, to be put in front of Hogan, and then he got over. And then they extended his deal, and here we are 27 years later, and he just had his final match in the WWE. So what a run. You can't say enough good things about The Undertaker's tenure in the WWE, his legacy, and what he left in the ring. And that was his character. And I thought it was cool, too. Did you guys see the pictures how they left Undertaker's gear in the ring while they cleaned up WrestleMania, while the production crew tore everything down? I think they left it in there for a while, before they finally had to tear the ring down. So, even the production guys, even the TV, camera crew, anybody that works for the WWE, whether they wrestle or not, they all love and appreciate the career of The Undertaker, and it's meant a lot to all of us. There's some people in the WWE that have been working there 30 years, just as long as The Undertaker has been in the company. So, it's an emotional moment for everybody involved, not only people in the business, but fans like us. And, I respect The Undertaker's career probably more than anybody else's career in the history of the wrestling business. I truly do. I mean, he commands the utmost respect, and he has the respect of all of his peers, of all of his fans. And there's nobody out there that has ever expressed any hate towards this guy at all. I'd love to hear some. I'm sure Undertaker's not perfect, but really when you look at it, can you think of anybody off the top of your head that has that same respect? Think of all the shoot interviews nowadays. Here we are, 2017. There's hundreds of YouTube channels. There's hundreds of shoot interviews and shit like that. And wrestlers are doing interviews all over the place. There's millions of them out there. Of all of the ones you have ever seen, have you ever heard anybody shit on The Undertaker? I haven't. And if those videos do exist, I would like to know what type of asshole actually has something negative to say about somebody that is just so respectful. I mean, he's the godfather of the WWE. If this guy does not have a statue in Stamford in the next, 24 months, I'm going to be offended because that's the least that he deserves. And hell, he deserves to have a statue erected on top of WWE headquarters, if you ask me. But, nobody deserves to be standing next to Andre and Bruno and Warrior, for that matter. I forgot he's got a statue there, too. But if one guy deserves a statue before everybody else, it is The Undertaker. So, Taker, thank you for everything. You had an amazing career. I watched you from the very beginning. I watched you in WCW. But when you got to WWE, I said it the other night in my WrestleMania reaction that, I'm pretty sure that I've seen every single televised match that The Undertaker has ever had in the WWE. I'm pretty sure I've seen them all. If for any reason I haven't seen them all, I can only be missing one or two. I mean, every video, every tape, every Coliseum video, every pay-per-view, every TV, Raw match, Smackdown match, anything he's ever done in the WWE, I've witnessed with my own eyes. And that just makes me respect him even more. It makes his career even that much more special that myself and a lot of us were right there with him every step of the way. And we watched literally every single thing he ever did in the WWE. So Deadman, my hat's off to you. Your career touched me in a way that not many wrestlers do, with the exception of one or two. Congratulations on an awesome career. We love you. We're going to miss you. And I hope we get to see you again one day. Rest in peace, Deadman. That's all I'm really going to say about WrestleMania. I'll talk a little bit more about WrestleMania as we roll through Monday Night Raw and SmackDown here. But I just wanted to open up with a few thoughts on The Undertaker. My WrestleMania results video, when I was talking about him, I didn't have anything prepared. I didn't even have any thoughts written down. I was just kind of improvising my reaction because I was so taken back about what we saw. But now with a few days to think about it, I just smile when I think about the career of The Undertaker and how much I'm going to fucking miss him. But anyway, let's move on now to the post-WrestleMania Monday Night Raw and SmackDown. Both shows were pretty awesome and we had some surprises on both. So let's start with Monday Night Raw as well. Now, we were wondering, what the show was going to open up with. Were we going to see Brock, the new Universal Champion, first? Were we going to see The Undertaker, perhaps, come out first? Or were we going to see Roman Reigns? And I was actually hoping it would be Roman Reigns because I knew the crowd was going to lose their shit, and they did. Oh my God. Roman Reigns comes out to open the show to probably the loudest boos I've ever heard. The post-WrestleMania Raw crowd this year was just as crazy as they always are. We knew they would be. I know Roman Reigns is going to get booed week after week, but I don't know if we're going to hear the boos quite this loud because this was brutal. I mean, he ended the career of a guy that we all love, and Roman came out to the ring and he literally stood there for 12 minutes and listened to the crowd chant all sorts of different shit at him. I mean, they were booing him so loud that the building was shaking. They were saying, fuck you, Roman. They were saying, go away. You're an asshole. Or I don't know what the hell they were saying, but they were saying so many horrible things to Roman Reigns. And, I'm going to give him a pass for this week because that's the passion, that's the emotion that I wanted out of the crowd. And I think that's the passion and emotion that the WWE was going for. I had so many people tweet me as well because on Twitter I had asked for updates on the show. And a lot of people are like, oh my God, you wouldn't believe the heat that Roman Reigns is getting right now. This is crazy. WWE is so stupid. I wish they would turn this heat into something. I got that comment more than once and I'm thinking to myself, what are you talking about? This is something. They have turned this into something. The WWE, it's not like they're unaware. They're totally aware of Roman Reigns and what the fans think of him. And I think the fans have to realize that times are different. Times are changing and you're not going to get heat the same way now that you would in the 70s and 80s. And sometimes this John Cena and Roman Reigns type of controversy is exactly what the WWE wants. It took me a while to realize that. For years, watching John Cena, I'm like, what the hell is the WWE thinking? They could have so much fun with this guy if they would turn him heel or if they would do this or if they would do that. But if they did that, then you're giving the fans a reason to boo him, and the fans do not like being told what to do. And they would probably rebel against that too and start cheering the fucking guy. So with Roman Reigns, he's already hated. People already hate this guy's guts. To me, he was the perfect choice. That person's going to get heat, and Roman Reigns has more heat than anybody else on the roster right now, so why not amplify it? And they did. And it was awesome. Roman didn't have to say anything. He didn't have to say a word. Finally, after 13 minutes of the fans shitting on him, he says into the mic, "This is my yard now," and walks away. He stood out there for 13 or 14 minutes and said 6 words. Wow. You talk about emotion. I mean, you talk about the fans truly caring about this person. If they didn't care about him, they would all leave. They would all go to the bathroom. They would all go get some nachos, go get a beer, do something else, or just have no reaction to the guy at all. I mean, they were booing so hard. There is nothing you can do with this guy by turning him heel that will make the fans boo him louder than that. That is as authentic and as organic of heat as you can get. I retweeted Bubba Ray Dudley just the other day when he called Roman Reigns' heat the purest form of heat that that you can have. I don't think the fans quite understand. So many wrestlers are chiming in on this too. A lot of people are coming to the defense of this and saying, you know, this is what you want. You want to boo this guy. The WWE doesn't care that you do. I know fans think that they do. I know WWE has edited some crowd chants and shit like that from time to time, but they have not completely ignored that Roman Reigns is booed by half or more of the audience. They make reference to it on commentary. They talk about it on WWE Network shows. They talk about it everywhere. So it's not like they don't know. It's not like they don't understand this. And Roman Reigns, this is probably what they do need to do with him. He can still remain a babyface, and all the fans that do like him for some reason can continue to like him. But what I hope is that he keeps his promos more simple. His one on the Go Home Mania Raw was good. And then the 6 words he spoke on Raw on Monday were also good and straight to the point. And if he keeps his focus like that, and if he gets on the mic and he's not going to shit on the fans, but he's also going to say, I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm here to prove that I'm the big dog and this is my yard and this is what I'm going to do, period. You know, and he just keeps it like that. Then the fans who want to keep cheering him can keep cheering him, and the fans who want to hate him can keep hating him. And I know a lot of fans hate to hear this because it's an argument that they hear all the time. And it's an argument that I gave about John Cena for so many years, you know, and I'm like, even though all of your complaints about these guys are correct, you cannot say that these people are boring or that nobody cares, because the fans that are cheering him loud. The fans that are hating him are also booing him loud. And overall, you have every single person in that arena reacting to him. Not every wrestler is like that. There's very few guys on the roster that every single person has an opinion about. They either passionately love him or they passionately hate him. And when you combine those two, it makes for great crowd reactions. And the more I think about it, this is something that WWE doesn't want to change. I think they enjoyed the crowd chanting, "You suck," or singing "You suck" to Cena's theme song. During his matches, you hear, "Let's go Cena, Cena sucks," back and forth between the crowd. To me, that's kind of fun. And I think the WWE realizes that they have the exact same thing, if not better, with Roman Reigns. And imagine if Roman Reigns and John Cena eventually collide head to head, one-on-one, maybe at WrestleMania or something like that. You know, I'd really be curious to see whose side the crowd is on. They're probably going to pick Cena because Roman is the new guy and they fucking hate him. And all the things they said about Cena, they're all of a sudden not going to care about, and they're going to root for Cena to win. The guy who all of the fans believed should never win a match ever. You know, every single pay-per-view, he had to lose. WWE would be stupid to have John Cena win this match. They said that at every single pay-per-view. You know, like John Cena is going to lose every single time. That's not going to happen. But now, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Cena and Roman went one-on-one, if Cena would get the majority of the cheers. But, you know, at the end of the day, this heat, this controversy, you know, all of this passion that the fans have about Roman Reigns, that's the way I guess you get heat now. That's the way you want to build a heel. Didn't Vince McMahon even come out and say some time ago that there's no such things as heels and babyfaces anymore? Even though that's kind of bullshit. With Roman, that's a perfect example of that. Roman is just who he is. John Cena is just who he is. These are who they are going to be. They're not going to change. And half of you can cheer him, half of you can boo him. And I think WWE likes having that conflict within the crowd, and they just like it. And now with Roman Reigns ending the career of The Undertaker, I mean, man, oh man, is that going to make for some good TV when he comes out to the ring? Because you know, for weeks now to come, until this really blows over, he's going to be booed pretty heavily. I don't think he'll ever be booed the way he was during the post-Mania Monday Night Raw, but he's still going to be booed very, very, very loudly every time he comes out to the ring from now until the foreseeable future. So WWE is not stupid. I mean, they are sometimes, but they're not this stupid. They're not so stupid that they think this guy is going to be a babyface and all the fans are going to love him for ending the career of The Undertaker. They know that's not the case. Why there are reports of them editing crowd noise and shit like that, I don't know. Why they take away anti-Roman Reigns signs, I don't know. It's fucking dumb because they know and they want this reaction from the crowd. Clearly they do. If they didn't, they would have already turned him heel, or they wouldn't have him beat The Undertaker to begin with. Or they would ask The Undertaker to come out the next night on Raw and put him over and tell the fans to relax on the guy. He beat me one-on-one. He's the big dog here. I'm going to leave now, and I expect you all to show this guy some respect or something like that. Do something to help get Roman Reigns over, but they didn't. Roman Reigns went out there and he absorbed all of that hate and all of that heat, and he just stood there and looked around the crowd and he took every single bit of it and barely changed his facial expression at all. Just kind of had that smirk on his face that everybody seems to hate. And then finally said his 6 words or 5 words. Let me count. "This is my yard now." Yeah, that's 5 words. Sorry for miscounting. But he said his 5-word promo and he got out of the ring. So to me, that couldn't have gone better. You know, I wouldn't have wanted Roman Reigns to cut a promo any longer than that. He didn't need to. There was no reason for Roman Reigns to go out there and say a goddamn thing. He just needed to stand out there, absorb the hate, and that's what he did. And I'm curious who he works with next. I'm guessing he's going to have some more shit with Braun Strowman, almost. But Brock Lesnar is also on the horizon. Now, I had planned to go in order when talking about Raw, but since we're on the subject of Roman Reigns, we might as well talk about Brock, because this is really interesting. Brock Lesnar, of course, beat Goldberg at WrestleMania. He's the new Universal Champion. Him and Paul Heyman came out to the ring later on in the show to cut a promo, and Brock looks awesome with that belt. He's standing tall. He's got that monkey off his back. Paul Heyman brags and brags about his victory over Goldberg and how this man is once again the unstoppable beast and the reigning, defending, undisputed WWE Universal Champion, does the whole deal, and then he decides to talk about the 2 in 23-2. And that, of course, is Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar. I mentioned this weeks ago that WWE is probably going to build to a match between the only 2 guys that have defeated The Undertaker at WrestleMania, and I thought that that match would take place at SummerSlam. I said back in January that I expect Roman Reigns to face Brock Lesnar for the title at SummerSlam. And with Paul Heyman basically calling out Roman Reigns right then and there, planting the seed for that match to take place, I'm thinking to myself, SummerSlam might be too far off. I mean, if Paul Heyman is calling him out right now, what are they going to do for the next 5 months until we get to SummerSlam? Paul Heyman even calls out Roman Reigns right then to come out to the ring and stand face to face with Brock Lesnar, but Brock Lesnar gets Braun Strowman instead. Braun comes out there, and that's a confrontation we've been wanting to see, but now that Braun has already lost to Roman Reigns, it's not as intriguing. The 2 of them have a stare down, and Braun eventually just backs off. I think he cuts a promo, talks about Roman Reigns a little bit, and then says, if you think what I'm going to do to him is bad, wait to see what I do to you, or whatever. But eventually he just backs off and walks out of the ring. So we got no brawl between these 2 guys. But now some of the reports that I'm reading online is that WWE might want Brock versus Roman for WrestleMania 34. That's great. I have no problem with that. But what the hell are you going to do for a year? You mean to tell me that Brock Lesnar is going to hold the Universal title for a year? He's going to wrestle a limited schedule for an entire year? That's going to suck. I mean, it would be one more big way to get Roman Reigns over. I mean, if Brock Lesnar does have a few title defenses throughout 2017 and successfully defends his title in all of them, mows through everybody, makes it all the way to WrestleMania next year, and then Roman Reigns dethrones him, you know, I mean, how can you even put Roman Reigns over anymore? Jesus, he retired The Undertaker. Now you're going to have him beat the Beast after he's held the title for a year? That's too far away, you know, if you ask me. I think Roman Brock needs to happen a lot sooner. You know, so with the rumors being that Roman could face Brock at WrestleMania, maybe that's a rematch. Maybe they work SummerSlam first, you know, or something like that. Maybe, I don't know, maybe Brock loses the belt to Roman at SummerSlam and then they fight again for it at WrestleMania, or vice versa. I don't know what's going to happen. But to me, if you have Brock and Roman, having it for the title would make the most sense. Roman Reigns has already mowed over Braun Strowman. He just retired The Undertaker. You would think the next big match that he's involved in needs to be for a title, or at least the Universal title. Unless for some reason during next week's shakeup of Monday Night Raw, they move Roman Reigns to Smackdown, you know, but then he's going to be involved in the world title picture over there, and he'll be winning the title anyway, and then maybe they bring him back to Raw next year and he's able to have the big match with Brock Lesnar. But whatever they do, the WrestleMania 34 thing is head-scratching, because as much as I would love to see Brock Lesnar hold on to the belt forever, you know, it's hard for a guy that never wrestles. He's not advertised to be at the next pay-per-view, which I think is Payback. There's a whole bunch of Monday Night Raws that he's not advertised for. I can handle Brock being champion in his limited role and his part-time schedule for a little while. I can handle it until SummerSlam. I'm not sure if I can handle it until WrestleMania. You know, unless that's the WWE's plan or plot. Maybe they want to have Brock work a limited schedule as champion all year long to piss the fans off. Because then you're going to get the internet talking about, oh, this guy is the champion. He's never on the show. He doesn't deserve it. He's going 30 days plus at a time without defending the belt, which according to the WWE rules isn't legal, and they should take the belt off of him. And he's already done this shit before. And it would just start slowly getting the fans to sour on Brock, to where by the time he got in the ring next year with Roman, fans really want to see Brock get his ass kicked for holding the WWE WWE Universal title hostage for a year. And if Roman is the one to take it from him, maybe Brock can get some of that similar internet heat that Goldberg got for holding the Universal title and only working a part-time schedule. And by the time you get to WrestleMania 34 next year, even if it is Roman Reigns, the fans are going to love it because they're just ready for Brock not to be champion anymore. And they're ready to see that belt back on Monday Night Raw on a weekly basis. So to me, I have no idea what the plans are for Brock. I don't know how long he plans on holding that belt, or if WWE has any other surprises perhaps up their sleeves. You know, what's Brock's contract situation like? Here's an idea for you. What if Paul Heyman turns? You know, what if Roman Reigns becomes the next Paul Heyman guy? If Brock is going to leave in the next year or two or something like that, maybe they build to this long match at WrestleMania and Paul Heyman turns on Brock or something like that. I mean, imagine Roman Reigns rather, standing in the same position in the ring that Brock Lesnar does with Paul Heyman cutting a promo about how awesome he is. I could tolerate Roman Reigns a lot better in that sort of an environment. And I don't know what the deal with Brock is. Personally, I don't even know when he signed that extension back in 2015, how long that goes until. Maybe it was 3 years, which means 2018 is next year. And maybe he's going to be done with WWE at least for a little while after next year's WrestleMania. And if Paul Heyman wants to stick around and WWE wants to keep him on television as an on-air character, he needs a new guy. He needs a new big guy that's as big and bad as Brock Lesnar is. And Roman's the only other guy to beat The Undertaker at WrestleMania. And storyline-wise, he's the most dominant guy they have. It seems like it would be a natural pairing there, especially if they finally decided to do something else with Roman and not bullshit themselves into thinking that he's this babyface. Stick him with Heyman. That could be fun. So, you know, that's another option too. So if they do stretch this Brock-Roman shit way out, maybe it spans a couple of matches. Maybe they do SummerSlam first, then the rematch at WrestleMania. If you throw Paul Heyman in the mix here as just a little added X factor, you don't know what he could possibly do either. Not that he's strong enough to really turn on Brock and cost him the match, but he was able to do it with a Big Show years ago, so maybe they're able to do something to where Heyman costs Brock the title and Roman Reigns is his new guy. So whatever they wind up doing with Brock and Roman, I just hope that it doesn't suck. And they got a lot of options and they got a lot of stuff that they could play with if they chose to. Let's move on now to the rest of Raw. I'll kind of backtrack and start at the beginning again. After Roman Reigns' promo, the first match we got was a tag team title match with Gallows and Anderson, I guess, getting a rematch against the new WWE Raw Tag Team Champions, the Hardy Boys, who, of course, made their return at WrestleMania. Probably easily moment of the night. Well, not moment of the night. Moment went to Taker. But pop of the night definitely went to Matt and Jeff. That arena exploded when they came out. I mean, I went back and watched that again. When I went back and looked at WrestleMania, I watched all of the Undertaker's final match and his final moments again because I wanted to experience that again. But I also went back and watched the Hardy Boys returning to the WWE, and the pop and the ovation that they got from that crowd was fucking amazing. I was so happy to see them win the belts, and then they had a rematch on Raw. They wound up beating Gallows and Anderson, and they're back. Now, the big question is what is going on with the broken Matt Hardy gimmick? We saw a couple of interviews from the Hardy Boys. I think one of them was from WrestleMania after they won the belts, and Matt Hardy was like half broken, you know, but not all the way. But after Monday Night Raw went off the air, they did Raw Talk on the WWE Network, and the Hardy Boys were on that, and Matt was pretty much back to his normal self. But during his matches and during his, the promo photos that they've taken of the Hardy Boys so far, you know, Matt doesn't have the wild hair, but he's still got the yellow streak in it, and he's always got that crazy-ass grin on his face. And he's making that face in matches, and they've done the delete chants a couple of times. So to me, it's like WWE is waiting to see if maybe they can use this. I joked the other day in my commentary that WWE should just call up TNA and say, look, idiots, let us pay you some money so we can use this gimmick. It's not doing you any good to fucking alienate more people by holding this gimmick hostage. You've got no business trying to claim this. Your company's a fucking joke. Everybody hates you. Let us pay you $100,000 and let us use this gimmick for a couple of guys that we fucking created to begin with. So fuck off, TNA. So maybe WWE are keeping these guys normal Hardy Boys for right now, and maybe in the future they can use the Broken Matt and Broken Jeff characters, hopefully. But, you know, Matt just has these little teases of it. Even though he was back to being regular Matt and regular Jeff, you know, Jeff is back to being Jeff, but Matt is just a little bit. You know, I say he's 10% Broken Matt Hardy still in the WWE. So hopefully in the future, shit can be worked out and we will see that brilliant broken character in WWE. Because even when Matt Hardy was cutting his promo, I think the first thing he said when he sat down with Renee Young and Jerry Lawler is they were like, you how does it feel to be back? And he goes, wonderful. And he used a few big words, and he just does a few little teases that broken Matt character is still under the surface, and hopefully it can bubble back up and return to all of us under a WWE umbrella. Would be pretty awesome, but still crazy to see them back. I absolutely love having them back. It's been, 7 years since Jeff Hardy showed up on that Monday Impact, and it's probably been going on 8, maybe even 9 years for Matt Hardy being in the WWE, so it's been a long time since we've seen those guys. And I'm really happy that they're going to get one final run in the WWE, and they have yet another set of tag team belts to add to their resume. Well, I guess I take that back. I think the SmackDown belts were the ones that were created, right? So the Raw tags are still probably the same tags that they've held, but, they even mentioned on Raw Talk that they were on this quest for gold, and they've procured all the gold from all the independent promotions all around, and now that their journey is over, they're back home in the WWE, and hopefully they'll have one final run and wrap up business because, they're getting older. So at what point can these guys continue to dive off ladders before they are risking their lives? So maybe one more run, another year contract, 2-year contract, whatever. Hardy Boys can have some fun in the WWE and ride off into the sunset as one of the greatest, if not the greatest tag team in wrestling history. So good to see them back, and I'm really curious to see what they do with the Hardy Boys in the future because they are over. I'll tell you what, man, this post-WrestleMania Raw was one of the best we've seen in a while. I mean, it was loaded with so many returns and surprises and debuts, and it was just chock full of everything. The other big news, of course, was that Vince McMahon made an appearance on this show, and he comes out and the entire arena sings his theme song. And the look on his face was pretty funny. I mean, does he not know how crazy the post-Mania Raw crowd can be? We've seen this every year. The crowd's absolutely nuts. I guess most of the time Vince is back in Gorilla and he's not out there actually experiencing this. But the look on his face when they were singing his song was priceless. And he gets in the ring and basically says, thanks everybody for coming to WrestleMania, but the wheel keeps on turning. We got to keep rolling here. And he says they're going to shake things up. So I guess next week on Raw, there's going to be a superstar shakeup is what they're calling it. So it's not a draft or anything like that. They're just going to move some guys around. And we have no idea how they're going to do this. We don't know if they're going to draw names or some shit like that. I'm guessing that's what it's going to be. Maybe there's going to be 2 bins, a Raw and a SmackDown bin full of names, and the GMs or commissioners or whatever are going to draw out the names, and that's who they get. Or maybe Vince McMahon is going to be the one to make the decision on who goes where. I have no idea how exactly they're going to move these guys around, but we do know that that's going to happen next week on Raw, and I'm really bummed out. I mean, I'm not bummed out, I'm going to be on vacation, but I'm bummed out that I'm probably not going to watch this Raw live. So don't forget to send me all the updates on Twitter and let me know who goes where. As far as what my predictions would be for something like this, I don't know if the changes are going to be huge. I think maybe they should move some guys around who would benefit the most, maybe some guys that are floundering midway through the card. We think of guys like Sami Zayn on the Raw brand. Maybe you could move Ziggler or Mojo or some other mid-card guy on SmackDown over to Raw. There's been talk of AJ Styles moving to Raw as well. So I think maybe we'll get 1, possibly 2 big names, but the rest of them are going to be like mid-card guys. I don't want to see them completely shake up the rosters. It hasn't even been a year yet. I couldn't imagine them moving somebody huge like a Roman Reigns or maybe even a John Cena or a Brock Lesnar or a Bray Wyatt, Randy Orton. I'm not sure if any of those guys are going to change. I think the backbone and the identities of the roster should try to stay somewhat the same and maybe just move 1 or 2 major names. Like I said, AJ is probably the only one I would agree with. If he came over to Raw and he was on the same brand as Balor and Gallows and Anderson, that could be amazing. But then again, Balor could move over to SmackDown or something like that. You really don't know. So I think we're going to see, like I said, them exchange 2 big names back and forth, and then the rest will be guys like Sami Zayn and shit like that. So I really hope that Sami winds up on SmackDown. I hope AJ winds up on Raw. I wouldn't be surprised if they did some tag teams either. I mean, I know we could get a Bullet Club reunion on Raw, but what if they move Gallows and Anderson to SmackDown? I wouldn't be surprised at all, actually, if Gallows and Anderson went to the SmackDown brand. I think it's just going to be a few guys here or there, but I think it would be some changes that will be needed and should benefit both shows and hopefully all of the talent involved. So next week on Raw should be very interesting. I guess Shane is going to be on Raw. I don't know if Shane and Daniel Bryan are both going to be on Raw. I'm not sure what's going on, but I think both rosters might be on Raw as well, because I guess if once one guy gets moved or drafted, they might want to have him come out on the show. I mean, if Raw lands a SmackDown guy, they might want to have that new guy have a match right there on Raw. So I'm not really sure what this schedule is going to be like. I don't know where the talent's going to be, if they're all going to be in the building that night, or how it's all going to go down, but it should be interesting to see. Now, that wasn't the only big announcement that Vince McMahon made. He announced something that we all saw coming a mile away, and none of us are complaining about it. But of course, Mick Foley was ousted as GM a couple of weeks ago, so they have to bring in a new one. And Vince McMahon said he's there to announce the new Raw general manager, and that this person was put into the WWE Hall of Fame this year during WrestleMania weekend, and everybody starts freaking out because they know who it is, and then Teddy Long's music hits. And he comes out there and he thinks he's the new GM, and Vince is like, what the hell are you doing here? He goes, what? It's not me. And no, my bad. And he leaves, and Teddy Long is absolutely hilarious. Another speech at the Hall of Fame that I really enjoyed actually was Teddy Long's. He did a great job. But that was a whole funny segment, and funny that the WWE is just messing with the fans a little bit. They know that Kurt's eventually going to come out there. And then Vince does announce Kurt Angle and kind of insults him a little bit too. You know, he announces the new Raw GM and nothing happens. And then he goes, this person's kind of a prima donna. I think he wants me to say his name. Your new general manager, Kurt Angle. And then the music hits and the crowd goes nuts. It is so nice to hear that fucking music again on Monday Night Raw. To have Kurt come out there and the entire arena chanting "You suck" in his face out of love. I mean, only in wrestling. You know, that's why wrestling is so different than so many other forms of entertainment. Only in this crazy-ass line of work can 20,000 people scream "You suck" and it means that they love you. I mean, only in wrestling. So Kurt comes down there to just a ton of reaction from the fans. And I think he shakes Vince's hand, and Vince gets out of the ring, and Kurt doesn't say much. He just kind of says he's glad to be there, and that's it. And then he leaves. So he is off and running on being the GM right away. At first, I was disappointed that he didn't say much more. I thought he was going to get on the mic and tell the fans about what his plans are, and maybe make a few matches for that night, or say that he's going to be this kind of GM or that kind of GM, and he's not to be messed with, or basically just give the fans an idea of what to expect. But they didn't do that. He basically just said, I'm back and it's good to be here, and he leaves. And then he does a bunch of backstage segments, which was awesome, because these are going to be so funny. You know, Kurt can be as funny as he was back in 1999. I mean, the first segment I think he did was with Enzo and Cass. And which is interesting because remember, he used to have a lot of funny backstage segments with Edge and Christian. So now here we are in 2017, and he's going to have some more entertaining segments with another team, E&C, which is kind of crazy. But I knew that they were going to want to do something with Kurt and Enzo and Cass at some point. And Kurt doesn't even understand what he's looking at. He has no clue. Enzo does his "how you doing" thing, and Kurt Angle answers him. You know, he's like, oh, I'll tell you how I was doing. I actually just got inducted in the Hall of Fame, and life is going really well right now. And you know, Kurt just with that goofy-ass look on his face. And then they did the whole soft thing, and then he kind of looks into the camera and he goes, that's not how you spell soft. So little things like that are going to be really fun to watch Kurt Angle do. Who else did he interact with backstage? I forget. I think it was Sami Zayn, right? Yeah, that's right. It was Sami. Sami was telling him how much he loved Mick Foley as GM, and that he's going to try his best to get used to Kurt Angle, and he respects him and he loves him. And then Jinder Mahal gets involved, and the two of them start arguing, and Kurt looks completely confused and annoyed and winds up shutting them both up and just making a match between the two of them. So the little bit of backstage stuff they did with Kurt Angle really makes me excited for the future. I mean, I've never been a huge fan of the GM role just because it never sticks, and a lot of times they just throw it on a guy, a Shawn Michaels, Mick Foley, or whatever in the past, and it never really lasts very long, and something always happens, or the fans get bored with it, or Stephanie turns into a cunt. By the way, speaking of Stephanie, Vince did mention in his promo that because of the table bump that she took at WrestleMania, that she's going to be out of action for the foreseeable future. So it looks like her and Triple H, at least for right now, because of what happened to them at WrestleMania, are going to be off of TV. It'll probably be a long while before we see Triple H again, but we might see Stephanie back at some point. You know, at some point there's going to be some conflict with Kurt Angle. A show isn't going to go right, or he's going to make some bad decisions, or something like that, and Stephanie is going to come back. And as much as I hate seeing Stephanie on TV, I don't think I would hate seeing her come back with Kurt as GM because of all of their history. And who knows, maybe Triple H can eventually get back on TV and have something to do with Kurt Angle. You know, we want to see Kurt Angle wrestle again. There's a ton of guys in the WWE I would like to see him work with. So it's possible that if Kurt Angle does have another match, maybe he winds up getting in hot water as the general manager. Stephanie comes out and they start feuding or whatever, and Triple H gets involved, and we have Kurt Angle versus Triple H at SummerSlam. I'm not saying I want that to happen. There's plenty of other guys I'd rather see Kurt Angle work with than Triple H, so don't demolish me in the comments. Don't think that I want to see that happen. It's just something in my head that I'm thinking WWE might do. But I think the interactions with Kurt and Stephanie at some point when we finally do get to that should be entertaining, because all their shit that they did back in 2000, 17 years ago, was entertaining, so I don't know why this would be any different. And I'm excited for Kurt Angle's run as general manager. I think he's a nice breath of fresh air to get Stephanie off of TV and just have Kurt Angle back there in his goofy ways and reacting to the talent and interacting with the talent. And I'm sure he'll have a few serious moments as well. I mean, some big things are going to go down. I mean, he's got a big roster. Look who's on that roster. His WrestleMania 19 opponent is the Universal Champion, Brock Lesnar. At some point, are we going to see Kurt and Brock have some sort of a face-off, some sort of a stare-down, possibly even one more match together? Don't completely rule out that idea. It could definitely happen. So I'm really keeping my fingers crossed, and I'm really optimistic that this will be a really fun general manager run by Kurt Angle, and I hope, I hope he succeeds. Is he the first guy? Let me think. Top of my head here. He was general manager of Smackdown, was he not? Is he the first guy ever to be the general manager of both? I'm just trying to think through my head of all the guys that have been in charge. I think he really might be the first guy that's ever ran both shows before. So that's kind of cool, especially considering Kurt Angle hasn't been in the WWE in 11 years. That's pretty crazy. So, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And just seeing Kurt Angle back on Raw, we're kind of in the honeymoon period, so it's just great to see him. I don't know if I'm going to feel this strongly about it 5 weeks from now, or if Kurt Angle will start getting, stale or something like that, but I don't see that happening. I'm just happy to see him back. I'm just happy to see him back in a place that I feel he should have never left to begin with. And I'm giddy as a little fucking schoolgirl seeing him back under a WWE umbrella, so I will be really interested to see how his GM role plays out. What else did we get on Raw? Oh yeah, we got some debuts. Why don't we start with the New Day? They came out and did an open challenge, and the second they said open challenge, you knew somebody was coming. And the Revival has made their debut. I kind of thought Revival might go to Smackdown, but they came to Raw, and that's fine. I don't really care where they land. It's an awesome team. And I actually had no idea that they were from North Carolina. I think one of them's from Kill Devil Hills, and the other one is from Asheville, where Edge and Beth Phoenix live. That's kind of cool. I actually didn't know that about those guys, even though I've been a huge fan of their tag team work in NXT. And the fans love them too. They got a huge pop. I mean, huge fucking pop. And they beat the New Day, and then they tried to stay heel, and they injured Kofi at the end. The crowd finally calmed down a little bit and realized that, okay, these guys are heels, and they've done similar things in NXT, and they did the thing where they injured his leg, and they're just a ruthless, good tag team that's highly skilled and knowledgeable in the art of tag team wrestling, and they kind of have redefined it a little bit in NXT. So I guess it's good to separate teams like Alpha and the Revival. If you would have put them both on SmackDown, that's a rivalry we've seen in NXT already, and I don't know if you really want to rekindle that. So separating them, I guess, works out fine. And welcome to the main roster Revival, and up next, I guess, will be the Hardys for them. Hopefully they can beat some teams and become number one contenders here rather quickly. Generally, WWE doesn't waste any time with teams like this. How long did it take American Alpha to win the belts on SmackDown? So I don't think that we're really going to be waiting too long for the Revival to become champions on the WWE's main roster, but I'm glad to see them there, and welcome aboard. It's about time. Let's see, what else do we have happening on Raw since I'm just kind of bouncing around? We had Neville beat Mustafa Ali in a great cruiserweight match, an awesome cruiserweight match. I didn't expect it to be this good. Neville came out to cut a promo, I think, and then Mustafa interrupted him, and I'm like, yeah, whatever. And then they ended up having a match, and the match was awesome with a few really good spots in it. And Neville won. I think did he tap him out, or did he hit him with the red arrow? Pretty sure he hit him with the... I don't even know. No, he did tap him out, didn't he? That's right. He went up for the red arrow, and the fans... he knew the fans wanted to see it, and then he changed his mind and just locked him in the rings of Saturn and had him tapping out anyway, which is an awesome heel move by Neville, and he keeps on rolling. Austin Aries is the number one contender again. He won a four-way, I think, on 205 Live on Tuesday, so he will be getting another shot at Neville for the Cruiserweight title, I'm guessing, at the next Raw pay-per-view, which is Payback. Am I right about that? Is Raw Payback and SmackDown is Extreme Rules? Hopefully I'm right about that, and as I'm pulling up WWE.com to check on that, I see the dates for Extreme Rules and I see the date for Payback, but it doesn't tell you which fucking brand gets the pay-per-views. But anyway, I think Raw's got Payback, and there is a story right here. Look at that. We're going to get a little breaking news right in the middle of my commentary. Well, it won't be that breaking, because by the time you guys hear this, this news will be a day old. But WWE has released Simon Gotch. I guess the headline here says it's a mutually agreed release, so he's gone. But that's one half of the Vaudevillains. What do they do with the other one? Is he the one that got in the fight? Is he the one that got beat up by Sin Cara? Didn't one of them get in some sort of altercation with him? So anyway, I'm just kind of skimming through this up. All it just says is they've come to terms on his release. So Simon Gotcha's gone. No big deal. Whatever. Vaudevillains suck anyway. Getting back to what I was talking about, let me pull my notes back up here. All right, back to business here. We had another debut of sorts on Raw as well. This one took place in a 6-women tag team match between Sasha Banks, Bayley, and Dana, teaming up to face Nia Jax, Charlotte, and Emma. Emma finally returns to the WWE. I kind of forgot about her for a minute there, but yeah, the post-Mania Raw, I guess, is the perfect place to finally bring her back after the whole Emelina debacle. And she comes out there, her entrance is great, her music is great. Fans popped for her, she walked over to the announce table and stood on the table. I love Emma. She looks badass. You know, hopefully WWE actually pushes her because this was her return match. We haven't seen her in a long time, and she lost. Her team wound up losing. So, she got a big pop and a great reaction, but it's also the post-Mania Raw, and I don't know if she's in hot water. Maybe she's in the doghouse with WWE over the Emelina stuff, and they're not going to do much with her. They're just going to put her on TV and have her lose all the time. I don't know. That's going to piss the fans off, but you never know with the WWE why they hold grudges or anything like that. So I'm hoping that Emma actually has a successful run on Raw. I didn't really like seeing her lose her first match. Granted that it was a 6-woman match, so it's not that big a deal. And it was used, I guess, to set up what looks to be a Nia Jax and Charlotte feud as Nia beat up Charlotte at the end. So, I'm really happy to see Emma back. I think she looks great. I like her presentation. I like her music. I like everything about her. And this is what they should have always done. They can't be pissed at her for a gimmick that they should have never tried with her not working. What she is doing right now is what's working. So the idiots in WWE have nobody to blame but themselves for what took place with Emma. But I'm glad to see her on the main roster now. Glad to see her back. And I wish her nothing but the best. She is awesome. I mentioned Sami Zayn and Jinder Mahal's interaction with Kurt Angle earlier on. They did have their match, by the way, and Sami Zayn beat him there. Nothing special. Sheamus and Cesaro beat Enzo and Cass for the number one contender spot, so they are now number one contenders again. And I'm guessing they'll take on the Hardys at the next pay-per-view, which I believe is Payback. And you know what? Now that I'm looking at another site, Jesus. Okay, this one says that Payback is a Raw pay-per-view, but now it's saying that Extreme Rules is also a Raw pay-per-view and SmackDown is going to have Money in the Bank. You know what? Let's take this shit to Twitter. Let's take to Twitter live right here on my podcast. All right. Let's type it right now. Hey, fuckers. Is Payback a Raw pay-per-view and is Extreme Rules a SmackDown pay-per-view? I'm recording my commentary right now and need to know. Let's throw a little LOL on there just for fun. All right, there we go. We'll tweet that. We'll see how long it takes me to get a response. But whatever the pay-per-view is, you can see that they're setting up some of these matches. And I guess we are going to get Sheamus and Cesaro versus the Hardy Boys at the next one. What else do I have written down for Raw other than the main event? We had Chris Jericho, of course, was going to be advertised to be in the main event in a tag team match with Seth Rollins taking on Kevin Owens and Samoa Joe. And Jericho was interviewed backstage, and he's attacked by Kevin Owens and Samoa Joe that put him through a table in the backstage area and knock him out of the main event match. Kurt Angle makes the announcement to Seth Rollins a little bit later on that Jericho is not going to be able to compete. But don't worry, Seth, I'm going to find you a partner. And as soon as he said, I'm going to find you a partner, I think we all knew that it was probably going to be Finn Balor. And it was. Balor comes out as Seth Rollins' partner. The crowd goes nuts. So great to finally see him back. I kind of thought we might see him at WrestleMania, but he comes back and helps Seth Rollins defeat Kevin Owens and Samoa Joe in the main event. He won with the coup de grace. I think he pinned Owens, right? And he is now finally back on the main roster. And it was interesting seeing him team with Seth, too, because don't forget, Seth is the one that injured him back at SummerSlam. And when I was mentioning on Twitter during WrestleMania that I would like to see him interfere in the Seth Rollins Triple H match, a lot of people are like, why would he come out and help the guy that injured him? And I thought it could be spun pretty easily because, they could have easily just treated that as an accident. It's not like the Samoa Joe situation where he came out there and injured Seth Rollins and they turned that into a storyline. Seth Rollins hasn't been bragging really about knocking Finn Balor out of action since it happened, and they can easily just, shake hands and be friends or whatever. And they kind of had a little stare down in the ring there, and Seth approaches him and then raises his hand, and looks like all is good in Finn Balor and Seth Rollins land. So the Raw roster right now looks pretty good. Granted, they they can move some stuff around next week, but you got Finn Balor and you got Seth Rollins and you got Kevin Owens and Samoa Joe. You got some great guys on that roster. You really do. I would definitely not call the roster weak in any way, shape, or form. And welcome back, Finn Balor. Great to see you. I don't know who he's going to work with first. I don't know if he's going to rekindle something with Samoa Joe. Maybe he's going to work with Kevin Owens for the U.S. title, because the Universal title obviously is tied up right now. And Finn Balor was the first ever Universal champion. But Finn Balor versus Brock right now, I don't know if it would really make any sense. But you got to think that Finn Balor, given the fact that he had to relinquish the title and never lost it, he should be granted a Universal title match virtually whenever he wants. So, with Brock's limited schedule, I don't think we're going to see him at the next pay-per-view. Oh, let's check Twitter, by the way. Let's see if anybody responded. Oh, a whole bunch of people did. Okay, so yeah. Yeah, see, I don't know what the fuck. Okay, so Raw gets Payback, okay. And Raw also gets Extreme Rules. And SmackDown gets Backlash. So wait a minute, Backlash is back to this time of year? Last year, Backlash was in September. Oh, god damn it. I cannot figure out what the hell is going on with these pay-per-views. I am completely unprepared trying to figure this stuff out. So, yeah, it looks like for most of you that you are all saying the same thing. I guess Raw is going to get Payback and Extreme Rules, and SmackDown is going to get Backlash and Money in the Bank, I guess. But shit, on SmackDown, they were, Bray Wyatt challenged Randy Orton to a House of Horrors match, and Dean Ambrose and Baron Corbin had this big brawl with chairs and tables. I thought they were setting up matches for Extreme Rules, so I don't know what the hell is going on, and I apologize for being an unprepared podcaster. But anyway, all of that pay-per-view shit is really not important right now. Let's get back to what the hell I was talking about, and that is Monday Night Raw, which I pretty much wrapped all my thoughts up on that. I thought overall this year's post-Mania Raw was a lot of fun. The crowd was a lot of fun, as always. I mean, they weren't burnt out. I mean, think of the weekend they had. Hall of Fame, NXT, a 7-hour WrestleMania, and they still had time and still had energy to be completely insane during the post-Mania Monday Night Raw. So I can't say enough good things about this year's WrestleMania weekend. It was awesome from top to bottom, and Monday Night Raw really delivered with a lot of fun stuff and a lot of surprises. I mean, think about what we got. I mean, the Hardy Boys just returned the night before. We had the Revival debuting. We had Emma returning. We had Finn Balor returning. We had Kurt Angle returning, and we had some of the most entertaining crowd reactions that we've ever seen. And Raw wasn't done either, because after it went off the air, they did Raw Talk on the WWE Network, where Goldberg came out. Goldberg came out after Raw went off the air. I saw a lot of people who were at the show tweeting like, holy shit, Goldberg's out here. And I like the fact that they did this after the show, just to ensure that the fans wouldn't shit on him and make the whole thing weird and uncomfortable, especially considering what Goldberg did basically was come out and retire in so many words. He might not completely retire. He said never say never. He said he's done for now, but he is 50, and this was a tough run for him. He had to get himself in amazing shape, and I just don't know if this is something he can do again, and if he does, he's going to have to do it in the next year or two. He can't come back at 55 and try to do this again. So, I guess right now he was saying goodbye to everybody, and I gotta tell you, I liked his speech. Probably the best I've ever heard him sound on the microphone in his entire career. I don't know, he's got this style to the way he talks, where he talks more matter of fact, talks more like a person and not like a character. And when he even gave the fans shit, they were kind of booing him when he came out, and he goes, look, this isn't part of the show. I'm about to speak from the heart here, so I would appreciate it if you'd listen to me and let me talk. Basically like, dudes, come on, give me a break. I'm a legend in this business. If you want to have fun, fine, but don't be a disrespectful prick, please, if at all possible, for the next 5 minutes while I cut a promo. And he essentially cuts a promo directly to his family. He stands in the ring and he looks right down in the front row at his wife and his son. And he said some wonderful things, talked about his career and how he does everything for them. He wakes up and eats, breathes, and sleeps every day for them, and he wanted his son to get a chance to see what he used to do, because his son wasn't even born the last time Goldberg was in the ring. So his son never got a chance to see his run in WCW and how hot he got back then and how crazy over he was. And a lot of that was done for him, which, was touching, And that's why I could handle this so much better, because it was done after the show. It didn't feel like a waste of time. Goldberg could have talked for as long as he wanted, and I would have kept listening, because I've said over the years many times that Goldberg was never my favorite. I don't know if I really respected his in-ring work, or maybe even his passion for the business. I thought he was very manufactured, but I also thought there was a lot of good things about him. He had an amazing look. He was at the perfect place at the perfect time. Almost identical to Stone Cold Steve Austin, but almost with the look and physique of a shoot fighter. He looked very believable. He was as strong as an ox. He was filled with intensity, and the crowd loved him. The whole entrance and the music and his whole overall presentation was so awesome, and it was one of the most popular things we've ever seen in wrestling. His his run was shorter than most guys. I mean, he was only on top in WCW for like a year and a half. Then he got injured and then it went to shit. And then his run in WWE wasn't that good, but he accomplished so much. And his popularity was so high during those times that he's looked at as one of the biggest icons this business has ever seen, even though he wasn't in the ring for very long. So I can respect that about Goldberg. I miss those days of WCW. I miss the Monday Night Wars. You know, even though I wasn't a big Goldberg fan and I thought Austin could wrestle circles around him if they ever got in the ring together, I popped as hard as everybody else did when he beat Hulk Hogan that night in the Georgia Dome on Nitro to win the WCW title. One of the greatest moments in the history of the whole industry of wrestling, not just WCW or WWE. So there's a lot about Goldberg to respect, and the fact that he came back and he had this little miniature run I thought was fine. It was just what the fans needed. He didn't overstay his welcome. Fans started turning on him a little bit when he won the Universal title, but he dropped it. He dropped it to Brock. He had a 5-minute match with Brock, which is all we needed. We didn't need 10. We certainly didn't need 15. And they made the best of those 5 minutes and made it an entertaining match. And I think those 5 minutes were a hell of a lot better than the 15 or 20 they put in at WrestleMania 20. And Goldberg even mentioned that in his promo. He called the match at WrestleMania 20 a debacle. And he said him and Brock did pretty damn good. And they did. He's right. They delivered, and we were all nervous how it was going to go because we just didn't know what to expect after what we saw at Survivor Series and what we saw at the Royal Rumble. We have not had a chance to see Goldberg really wrestle. Hell, he beat Kevin Owens in 25 seconds to win the world title. So the fact that Goldberg went out there, took 10 Germans, speared Brock through a barricade, hit one jackhammer and got F5'd, what else do you want out of a match like that? So, to me, they far exceeded expectations, and I was happy and proud of Goldberg in a lot of ways. If he would have held on to that belt until SummerSlam or something like that, I probably would have been pissed and probably would have turned on the guy. But for what he gave us, it was nice for him to come back and right a lot of the wrongs from his first run. I mean, things didn't go well his first year there when he came back in 2003 and stayed for a year. He wasn't really on good terms with Vince McMahon or Triple H, and he hated the politics, and he basically just hated being there. It was nice to be able to see him come back and give the fans one more look at him for the last time and have him have a big match and a couple of big pay-per-view matches and win a championship belt. So, it's not something when I look back on this a couple years from now, this is probably not going to be something I'm going to complain about. I'm perfectly fine with Goldberg coming back the way he did, giving him a quick little nostalgia run, plus adding lineage and history to the Universal Championship itself. I don't think it was really a bad thing. And WWE pulled it off well because it could have easily gone south. Before this whole feud even started, we didn't know what to expect. And I think overall, it had its ups and downs. It wasn't great, but overall, I think we can look at this and say it was a hell of a lot better than 2004. So Goldberg, if this is in fact it, thanks a lot for everything. You were pretty fun to watch back in the day, and you truly are a legend. And hell, maybe next year we're going to see you go into the Hall of Fame as well. Who knows? Why don't we move on to Smackdown Live now? This was an equally good show and had some surprises and some returns and debuts and all that stuff, just like Raw did. I do want to mention Mauro Ranallo really quick. He is still not back, and he didn't call WrestleMania, which was a shame. I was hoping to see him come back. And now there's even rumors that JBL might have been the cause of this whole thing. This motherfucker. I hate this guy. I mean, what the fuck is his problem? And now there's stories coming out that maybe he bullied Mauro Ranallo. He was taking shots at him on Twitter, saying everybody made it to the show except you. And then I think he talked about him on a WWE Network show or buried him on there or whatever. And if that triggered some sort of depression in Mauro Ranallo, that makes me want to punch JBL in his fat fucking face. This idiot shows up at the Hall of Fame to induct Teddy Long and talks about how we should all respect each other as individuals and our differences and all this crap when he was referencing Teddy Long and all the hardships he had growing up as a black man in Louisiana, and basically just preaching, what I say all the time, just accept that everybody's different and, just we should all tolerate and accept each other and love is in the air, right? That kind of thing. And then here it is, the exact opposite in real life. This guy's a complete douchebag to everybody he comes into contact with. He's been accused of bullying people more than once. 180-pound Joey Styles knocked him the fuck out, apparently, on one of the Tribute to the Troops tours or whatever. And I just wish somebody else would. This is all assuming, of course, any of this is true. I mean, I guess JBL could technically be totally innocent. Maybe he doesn't have anything to do with the Mauro Ranallo situation, but it's not out of the realm of possibility when you hear about all the previous stories about JBL and how he's been accused of shit like this before. And if he's done something to Mauro Ranallo or done something to cause Mauro Ranallo to suffer another bout of depression or whatever, or have to go home or seek some medical attention or just take time off. And if JBL was the cause of that, he is a piece of shit. This guy has always rubbed me the wrong way. He's incredibly hypocritical. I've never even trashed him on Twitter, and the son of a bitch blocked not only me, but a ton of other people. There's a whole bunch of other podcasters and YouTubers out there that have never even really said anything bad about the guy that he just blocks because he's a dick. And he can't handle anything. He can't handle any level of criticism or anything like that. Whenever I hear a story like this about him, it just makes my blood boil. Fucking asshole. But anyway, let's move on to what actually happened on SmackDown. It opened up with a Randy Orton promo. Now, Randy Orton is our new WWE champion. Both world titles changed hands at WrestleMania. And I think the fans aren't too happy about it. He did not get a very good ovation on SmackDown. And another thing about JBL that pisses me off. Did you hear what he said when SmackDown opened? He's like, we're live from Orlando, and it's the first SmackDown after WrestleMania. You're going to see some really strange passion here from the fans. They're going to cheer the guys they normally boo, and they're going to boo the guys they normally cheer. What the fuck are you trying to tell yourself? Don't kid yourself. Yes, the fans have a lot of fun, but you mean to tell me they were going to boo Shinsuke Nakamura when he came out there for his debut, you fucking moron? It's just such a dumb explanation, trying to explain to the TV audience why the fans are acting weird. You know, yeah, you're right. They never boo Roman Reigns, ever. They never boo John Cena. They always love them. What the fuck, JBL? Goddamn. But Randy Orton didn't get a very rousing ovation from the audience, and I think that's going to continue. Now, I'll defend Randy Orton being WWE champion. Here's why. Because I've mentioned this before. When you look at the storyline and you look at what has taken place between Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt ever since it started, this is the outcome that really should have happened from a storyline perspective. Now, I know a lot of people love Bray Wyatt, and Randy Orton now is a 13-time world champion, only 3 behind John Cena. He might also break Ric Flair's record one day, who knows? And I know a lot of that rubs people the wrong way, but I made the argument in my last commentary that if Randy Orton does defeat Bray Wyatt for the title, don't think that that's the end of the feud. They're probably going to do something else, and that was clear on SmackDown. Randy Orton's cutting his promo, Bray Wyatt comes on the screen and he challenges him to something called a House of Horrors match, which I think is why I assumed SmackDown had the Extreme Rules pay-per-view, because I thought it was going to be some crazy-ass match. So you know these guys are going to do some sort of a gimmick match at the next pay-per-view, which is what I've been saying in recent commentaries, that if Randy Orton does win, don't freak out, because he probably should win for the sake of the storyline, and then Bray Wyatt can always win the belt back at a later time, which I think he will. I think Bray Wyatt will defeat Randy Orton for the title at the next pay-per-view, or maybe even the one after that, or hell, maybe even later on at SummerSlam. I don't see that 1 month run being Bray Wyatt's only WWE title run. There's just no way. I mean, unless they move them. I mean, I don't think they will. It looks like they're setting up a rematch between the two, so I suppose they could move Bray to Raw or something like that, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think Bray and Randy are both going to stay on SmackDown, and they probably will work the next pay-per-view and maybe even the one after that for the WWE title, and Bray Wyatt can very well get his hands back on that belt. So even though I know fans weren't thrilled that Randy Orton won the title, my argument is what Vince McMahon said on Monday Night Raw, that the big wheel keeps on rolling. Just because your favorite guy didn't win doesn't mean they're never going to wrestle a match again. And you have to know that that's not the end of the story, and if you stick with the story, Bray Wyatt might be a 2-time or a 3-time WWE champion before year's end, and that just builds his legacy even more. So at the end of the day, despite all the little tricks that he pulled at WrestleMania with the maggots in the ring and the bugs and the spiders and all that other shit that he did, Randy Orton was still able to RKO him and win the WWE title, and now they'll have a rematch, and hopefully Bray Wyatt will Sister Abigail him and win back the WWE title. So I don't think it's time to panic quite yet. They did have a tag team match on SmackDown as well. Eric Rowan made his return. During the Bray Wyatt promo, the lights went out and Bray Wyatt then appeared in the ring behind Randy Orton, and Randy actually fights him off until Eric Rowan returns and attacks, and that prompts Luke Harper to come out and make the save, and then you got a big tag team match in the main event, which Randy Orton and Luke Harper did win, with Randy Orton hitting Eric Rowan with the RKO and getting the pin and closing the show. So the issue between Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton is not quite over yet. I don't know where Eric Rowan and Luke Harper are going to fit into this. Luke is a guy, you know, I think they should maybe send to Raw, just so you don't have all these former Wyatt family guys on the same show. Maybe send Luke Harper over to Raw so he can get his own identity, much like Braun Strowman did. Eric Rowan, I think, is going to be right back to his losing ways. This guy is completely useless in the WWE. I don't even ever remember him ever winning a match ever in my life. So I think he's going to be taking the pin and taking a lot of the abuse for Bray Wyatt if they do wind up sticking together. And I guess the Wyatt family is a two-man group right now. And who knows? Maybe they'll add some more. There's been talk of adding a girl. Maybe Sister Abigail can actually come in. Maybe that's how Bray Wyatt wins the title back. Maybe whatever his next match with Randy Orton is, Sister Abigail interferes. Don't forget, Randy Orton desecrated her grave and burnt it down and did all this shit. So if they were going to debut a woman or bring somebody in as Sister Abigail, I don't know who it would be. It would have to be somebody in NXT that we already know of. And then it wouldn't be like a new person. It would just be them changing their name. So, I don't know. Maybe having a girl come in wouldn't work, but it definitely would be a good place for it if she comes back from the dead or whatever and scares Randy Orton shitless and allows Bray Wyatt to regain the title somehow. So, I wouldn't rule out any of those funny mind games or any of that crazy kooky shit. We can't complain about it. It's no weirder than anything that went on between The Undertaker and Kane years ago. So it's not like we can really make fun of this because there's been far dumber shit on WWE TV with some major WWE stars in the past. And, hopefully when this feud finally blows off, we'll have Bray holding that WWE title again. As far as what else I have written down for SmackDown, Alexa Bliss invoked her rematch clause with Naomi right away on SmackDown, and Naomi tapped her out. It's great to see Naomi back as champion. She looks great. She's doing good, and I'm happy for her. Baron Corbin and Dean Ambrose, I mentioned them earlier on. They had the street fight. Baron Corbin won with the end of days with his finisher, so that issue is not over with yet. And now that you see that, it's like, okay, I can see why Dean Ambrose retained at WrestleMania. We had both world titles change hands. We had the Raw Tag Team titles change hands. We had the U.S. title change hands. A lot of belts were moving around, so maybe an Intercontinental title change added to all of that maybe wouldn't be appropriate or would have gone forgotten or something like that. So I have a feeling Dean Ambrose is going to drop that Intercontinental title to Baron Corbin at their next match, and I'm sure it's going to be a gimmick match because when we saw all those tables and chairs in the middle of the ring, whatever they do at the next pay-per-view, maybe it's a ladder match or something like that. I don't know. All you know is it's going to be a gimmick match of some kind where they can use all sorts of weapons and do all sorts of shit, and that's when I expect Baron Corbin to take the Intercontinental title from Dean Ambrose. Shane McMahon also came out to cut a promo, and he did something that I predicted that he would do. He came out to the ring and talked about the superstar shakeup that's going to take place next week or whatever, and AJ Styles then interrupts. And he gets on the mic and he says he doesn't want to go anywhere. He wants to stay on SmackDown. And then he talks to Shane and he goes, you know what? After last night, there's something I owe you. And AJ Styles has got a black eye. Shane gave him a black eye at WrestleMania. And then he sticks out his hand and they shake hands. And I knew they were going to do that. I called that 3 weeks ago. I was like, these guys are probably going to go out there at WrestleMania and completely kill each other. And if AJ wins, there's nowhere else to go from there. If Shane wins, AJ can be pissed and demand a rematch. If AJ wins, Shane is just going to take the loss because that's what he does. And he had a great performance and they kicked each other's asses and Shane held his own in there with a great talent like AJ, which really surprised me and I appreciated from him at WrestleMania. I wasn't sure, if I even wanted to see Shane have a match, but then after I saw the match, I was glad that I did. And there was a little show of respect there. AJ kind of teases jumping on Shane and attacking him at the end, and Shane gets in defense mode and they kind of smile at each other, and it was just a nice show of respect there between the two. And I had mentioned that in my commentaries recently that could lead to an AJ Styles title match of some kind. Maybe he's earned the respect of Shane and Shane's now going to start giving him opportunities or whatever. But, if AJ goes over to Raw, I guess that's the last we're going to see of AJ and Shane, and I think it was an appropriate goodbye between the two of them. So pretty good segment there. I have no complaints. And of course, we had a couple of really big debuts on SmackDown as well. The first one came during the Miz and Maurice's segment, and I'm not sure if the Miz and Maurice know that their feud with Cena and Nikki is probably over, but it's not, I guess. They came out dressed like Cena and Nikki again, came down to the ring, John Cena's music playing and the whole deal, and I laughed my ass off. Is it not the funniest thing to watch The Miz run down to the ring exactly like John Cena? He's got John Cena's mannerisms down so perfectly. When John Cena does that funny-ass run, I was cringing my ass off at WrestleMania watching him run down that football field of a ramp, with his kind of arms sticking out. He just doesn't run very right. And I guess it's different. You're running downhill, too, so it's a little bit different. It's not like running on flat grass. But he just looks so weird when he runs. And The Miz did it perfectly, and he does that thing with his ass sticking out. And he gets in the ring with Maurice, and they're joking, and he's being all robotic like Cena. And he's like, "I love you, Nikki," and all of this shit, and basically making fun of their proposal and saying the only reason John Cena did it is because Miz and Maurice pushed him to do it, and he had to save face because he's a big fucking phony. And I don't want to complain about this because it was awesome, and I was literally standing up dancing when this happened. But the lights go out. and a fucking dude with a violin shows up in the rampway area, and the crowd knew it. Holy shit, we're getting Shinsuke Nakamura. We had a feeling we would. He kind of had his big send-off at NXT TakeOver. There's no reason to keep him there any longer now. He's got to be moved up to the main roster. Plus, he's in his mid-30s. If you want to do anything with him at all on the main roster, he needs to get there now. So he showed up and didn't do anything. He just came out to the ring with his music. The entire crowd sang every note of his theme song. Miz and Maurice kind of just powder out, get out of the ring quietly, walk away. And Shinsuke just kind of dances in the ring and does all of his moves, and the crowd was into it. And that was it. No match, no nothing. It was basically just an announcement that he is there, and I'm happy to see him there. And I hope he stays there. I hope he's not one of these guys that gets moved around or anything. Shinsuke should probably be on Smackdown. I think he's perfect for that brand. And he's got some pretty good damn opponents to work with there, too, provided none of them move around. I think a Shinsuke and Randy Orton match would be fantastic. AJ and Shinsuke would be great as well. Pretty sure that one's happened before. He could even work with Baron Corbin. He could work with Dean Ambrose. He could work with Sami Zayn if they send him over from Raw. There's a lot of guys that Nakamura can work with, and I'm excited that he's there. So good to see him there. He has got such an epic presentation, and that character is one of the best they have. It's pretty awesome. And the other debut, of course, we got was Ty Dillinger. Curt Hawkins is out there in the ring, and he issues an open challenge. And you're like, shit, who's it going to be? I thought it would be Nakamura because this match had happened before Nakamura debuted, and they brought out Dillinger instead. And it was funny. A lot of people were bitching on Twitter, oh, I can't believe they chose Dillinger over Shinsuke. And I'm like, will you motherfuckers please relax? The show's not even over yet. Plus, we're doing the big superstar shakeup next week. They might just be holding off his debut until next week, since we've already had a shit ton of debuts, but then he still winds up showing up on SmackDown. So, for the fans that were complaining, I'm like, will you guys just chill out? He'll be coming in. I promise you, he's coming to the main roster. Maybe it's just not tonight. Might be a week from now, might be 2 weeks from now. Dillinger had a good match with Curt Hawkins, beat him, looked good. Fans are into it. That perfect 10 thing or gimmick that he does is extremely over. I worry about him though, just judging from his side. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to make any assumptions about the guy. I'm just not sure if this guy's going to be a title holder on SmackDown. I'm worried that he's going to be, he's not going to be Curt Hawkins level or anything like that, but I don't know if he's going to be Baron Corbin level either. So hopefully they can do something fun with him. I can't see this guy getting any world title shots, at least right now. And, his position on the card right now kind of seems pretty clear. But at the end of the day, it's still good to see him there. He's been in developmental for a long time. God, it was somebody on the SmackDown brand, wasn't it? I think it was The Miz, actually. See, that's what doesn't make any sense. It would have been much better for Ty Dillinger to show up during the Miz's segment and have Nakamura beat Hawkins in the open challenge, because I think it was The Miz a few weeks or months back. I remember seeing him tweet Dillinger, like, what's the 10 for? Is that how many years you've been in developmental or whatever? Just the most awesome burn. And it just makes you love The Miz even more. I'm like, oh my God, that's fucking brutal. But he had some pretty not so kind things to say about Ty Dillinger in their little Twitter war there. So I thought that would have been a good place for Ty to debut. I can see Ty working with Ziggler, I guess, probably at first. Maybe Ziggler puts him over in a few matches like he did last year with Tyler Breeze or whatever. It seems to be Ziggler's role these days. So maybe a feud with Ty Dillinger is the first thing in line for him, is with Ziggler. Who knows? But all in all, it's good to see him there. It's nice to see the guys that WWE brought up. I think they were the perfect choices. It can pretty much be argued that everybody that was brought up from NXT, the Revival, Shinsuke, Ty Dillinger, were long overdue to be brought up to the main roster, so it's nice to finally see them there. We're still going to have to wait a while on Asuka. She's been NXT champion for over a year now. She retained at NXT TakeOver, so she's not going to be coming up until she has a feud, and that feud runs its course, and she drops the title and loses her rematch. It could be a while. It might be SummerSlam. It might even be next year before we see Asuka on the main roster, but I'm ready for her to be there because I fucking love her. So anyway, that's pretty much it. That's a wrap on WrestleMania weekend. Holy shit. What a weekend it was. I mean, Hall of Fame, NXT, WrestleMania, Raw, SmackDown. 5 great shows. 5 shows that I have very little to complain about. I think the WWE did a great job of entertaining us this year. Last year's WrestleMania wasn't the greatest, and this year's WrestleMania just completely buried that one. So before I sign off here, because you're not going to hear from me for 2 weeks, let me just peek at some wrestling news. Is there anything else I need to comment on before... Oh gosh, doesn't look like anything. Yeah, the Simon Gotch shit I mentioned earlier. Still no news on whether or not WWE could possibly be purchasing Ring of Honor or maybe airing their shows on WWE Network. There's been some talk of that in the past few weeks, but nothing new to report there. And just skimming through the headlines here on some of these news sites, I am not seeing anything really worth mentioning, so I think that's it. So yeah, I guess that's it. I'm going to sign off now. Wow, I'm exhausted from that WrestleMania weekend. That was crazy. Thank you to everyone for listening. So you guys take care. Have a good couple of weeks. I will be active on Twitter, like I've mentioned several times. So if you want to get my opinions on anything while I'm on vacation, just check my Twitter account. I'll be talking, probably even posting some pictures or shit like that. So, I'll at least be around and I'll be visible. I just won't be making a commentary until probably 2 weeks from today. Hopefully earlier, though. I can bust one out as soon as I get back. But anyway, you guys take care. Have a great couple of weeks, and I will talk to you very soon. Until next time, peace.